The first time Olivia Bennet realized her husband was lying to her was she was sitting barefoot on a cold hospital floor, with blood still drying on her skin, while their newborn daughter slept quietly in her arms. Outside the delivery room, rain slammed against the windows of Mercy General Hospital in Chicago, hard enough to rattle the glass. Nurses moved quickly through the hallway. Machines beeped softly around her bed. The whole room smelled like antiseptic, warm blankets, and exhaustion. Olivia could barely keep her eyes open after 16 hours of labor, but she remembered every single word. Ethan stood near the sink, staring at the baby like she was something dangerous. Then, in the calmest voice imaginable, he said, "Whose baby is that?" The room went dead silent. Not movie scene silent, real silent. The kind where your stomach drops before your brain even understands why. Olivia honestly thought she hallucinated it. "What?" she whispered weakly. Ethan looked at the baby again. Tiny nose, dark hair, sleepy little mouth wrapped in a pink hospital blanket. "She doesn't look like me," he said flatly. A nurse froze beside the monitor. Olivia's older sister Mia slowly lowered the coffee cup in her hands, and Olivia felt something inside her chest tear open in a way labor never could. "Olivia," she breathed, "what are you saying?" But he didn't answer immediately. That was the worst part. He looked prepared, like this conversation had already happened inside his head 100 times before he walked into that room. Finally, he shrugged once. "I'm saying I want a paternity test." Mia snapped first. "You've got to be kidding me!" Ethan ignored her completely. Olivia stared at him in disbelief. She was pale, shaking, barely stitched back together from childbirth, and somehow the man she loved was looking at her like she was the criminal. "I never cheated on you," she whispered. Ethan gave a humorless little laugh. "That's what everybody says." The words hit harder than screaming would have, because cruel people yell when they lose control. Calm people? Calm people already made their decision. Little Ava stirred softly against Olivia's chest. The nurse awkwardly adjusted the blanket around the baby and quietly left the room like she didn't want to witness what came next. Rain kept pounding outside. Olivia could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. "You think I carried your child for 9 months just to lie to you?" she asked, voice cracking. Ethan crossed his arms. "I think people do crazy things when money's involved." That sentence confused her more than anything else. "Money? What does that even mean?" Mia demanded, but Ethan grabbed his jacket from the chair. "I'm not doing this right now." Then he walked out. Just like that. Left his wife bleeding in a hospital bed, left his newborn daughter crying softly against her mother's chest, and disappeared. Olivia spent the entire first night awake, not because of the baby, because of the humiliation. Every nurse who entered her room felt like a witness. Every sympathetic glance made her want to disappear. At around 3 a.m., one of the overnight nurses sat beside her bed while Ava slept in the bassinet. "You okay, honey?" the woman asked gently. Olivia nodded automatically, but tears rolled down her cheeks anyway. By morning, Ethan still hadn't returned. His phone went straight to voicemail. Mia stayed beside Olivia most of the day, furious enough for both of them. "He lost his damn mind," she muttered while pacing near the window. "You don't accuse your wife of cheating right after she gives birth. That's psycho behavior." Olivia wanted to defend him. That was the pathetic part. Even after everything, some part of her still searched for explanations. Stress, fear, shock, anything except the truth. But deep down, something felt wrong. Not emotional wrong, planned wrong. Ethan had always been careful, Organized, controlled, the kind of guy who color-coded bills and set reminders for oil changes 3 months early, and now, suddenly, he was acting like a man building a case. On the second day, Olivia noticed him whispering angrily on the phone near the vending machines outside maternity. She only caught part of it. "No," he hissed, "she doesn't know yet." Olivia stopped. Her stomach tightened. Before she could get closer, Ethan spotted her. His expression changed instantly, like a mask sliding back into place. "You shouldn't be walking alone," he said. Olivia stared at him. "Who are you talking to?"
Work. At a hospital? People still work in hospitals, Liv. The sharpness in his tone made her flinch. Then he glanced down at the baby carrier beside her wheelchair. Still think she looks like me? That one hurt. Really hurt. Because Ava was his daughter. Olivia knew it with absolute certainty. But suddenly, certainty didn't matter anymore. Suspicion had entered the room. And once suspicion enters a marriage, it poisons everything. By day 3, the atmosphere became unbearable. Ethan barely touched the baby. He refused to take pictures, refused to hold her longer than a few seconds. Every nurse noticed. One older nurse named Gloria lingered unusually long during Olivia's vitals check. At one point, she looked directly at Ethan and frowned slightly. Not judgment, recognition. Just for a split second. Then it vanished. That same night, Olivia overheard another strange conversation. Ethan stood near the stairwell, whispering into his phone. "I said I'll handle it. She'll sign once things settle down." Olivia froze. Sign what? When Ethan turned and saw her standing there, his jaw tightened immediately. "How long have you been standing there?" "What am I signing?" "Jesus, Olivia." "No, seriously, what are you talking about?" He rubbed his forehead dramatically like she was exhausting him. "The refinance paperwork." Olivia blinked. "What refinance paperwork?" "The house." Cold fear slid through her chest. "We talked about refinancing months ago," she said slowly. "We never did it." Ethan looked away too quickly. "We did." Olivia stared at him. "What?" "You signed electronically." "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." Something about the way he said it made her blood run cold. Not defensive, confident, like he expected her to doubt herself. And suddenly, memories started replaying differently inside her mind. Ethan insisting on digital signatures because pregnancy made her tired. Ethan handling all their finances during the 3rd trimester. Ethan telling her not to stress over paperwork. That night, Olivia secretly called their bank when Ethan went downstairs for coffee. The woman on the phone sounded hesitant. "Mrs. Bennett, there was a large home equity withdrawal filed 4 months ago." Olivia sat upright despite the pain ripping through her abdomen. "What withdrawal?" "Your authorization is attached to the file." "I never authorized anything." Silence. Then the banker's tone changed carefully. "Work. At a hospital? People still work in hospitals, Liv." The sharpness in his tone made her flinch. Then he glanced down at the baby carrier beside her wheelchair. "Still think she looks like me?" That one hurt. Really hurt. Because Ava was his daughter. Olivia knew it with absolute certainty. But suddenly, certainty didn't matter anymore. Suspicion had entered the room. And once suspicion enters a marriage, it poisons everything. By day 3, the atmosphere became unbearable. Ethan barely touched the baby. He refused to take pictures, refused to hold her longer than a few seconds. Every nurse noticed. One older nurse named Gloria lingered unusually long during Olivia's vitals check. At one point, she looked directly at Ethan and frowned slightly. Not judgment, recognition. Just for a split second. Then it vanished. That same night, Olivia overheard another strange conversation. Ethan stood near the stairwell, whispering into his phone. "I said I'll handle it. She'll sign once things settle down." Olivia froze. Sign what? When Ethan turned and saw her standing there, his jaw tightened immediately. "How long have you been standing there?" "What am I signing?" "Jesus, Olivia." "No, seriously, what are you talking about?" He rubbed his forehead dramatically like she was exhausting him. "The refinance paperwork." Olivia blinked. "What refinance paperwork?" "The house." Cold fear slid through her chest. "We talked about refinancing months ago," she said slowly. "We never did it." Ethan looked away too quickly. "We did." Olivia stared at him. "What?" "You signed electronically." "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." Something about the way he said it made her blood run cold. Not defensive, confident, like he expected her to doubt herself. And suddenly, memories started replaying differently inside her mind. Ethan insisting on digital signatures because pregnancy made her tired. Ethan handling all their finances during the 3rd trimester. Ethan telling her not to stress over paperwork. That night, Olivia secretly called their bank when Ethan went downstairs for coffee. The woman on the phone sounded hesitant. "Mrs. Bennett, there was a large home equity withdrawal filed 4 months ago." Olivia sat upright despite the pain ripping through her abdomen. "What withdrawal?" "Your authorization is attached to the file." "I never authorized anything." Silence. Then the banker's tone changed carefully. "Ma'am, your electronic signature appears valid." Olivia hung up, shaking. For the first time since labor began, she felt genuinely afraid of her husband. Not angry, afraid. Because suddenly she realized something horrifying. Ethan wasn't spiraling emotionally. He was positioning himself. That night she barely slept. Rain continued tapping against the hospital windows while Ava breathed softly beside her bed. Olivia kept replaying every year of their marriage. The charming proposal near Lake Michigan, the expensive anniversary dinners, the way Ethan always knew exactly what to say when she felt insecure. Now, all of it felt rehearsed somehow, like she'd fallen in love with a performance instead of a person. Then came day 5. The morning everything shattered completely. Sunlight spilled weakly through the blinds while Olivia fed Ava quietly in bed. Ethan sat near the window scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. Too calm again. A sharp knock interrupted the silence. Dr. Klein entered holding a thick medical file. At first he looked normal. Then his eyes landed on Ethan, and all the color drained from his face. The doctor stopped moving. For one terrifying second, nobody spoke. Then Dr. Klein stepped backward toward the hallway. "Lock the door," he whispered. The nurse behind him froze. Dr. Klein never took his eyes on Ethan. "Call hospital security, now." Olivia's heart nearly stopped. "What's happening?" she gasped. Nobody answered. Ethan stood slowly from the chair. What the hell is this supposed to mean? But his voice had changed. The confidence was gone. Now there was tension underneath it. Danger. Dr. Klein backed farther into the hallway. Security's already coming. Olivia looked between them in confusion. "Someone please tell me what's going on." Then Ethan moved. Fast. He lunged toward the doorway so suddenly the nurse screamed. A metal tray crashed violently against the floor as he shoved past Dr. Klein and bolted into the hallway. "Ethan!" Olivia cried instinctively, but he never looked back. Voices exploded outside the room, footsteps, shouting, radios crackling. Then, taser. A body hitting the ground, someone yelling, "Don't move." Ava woke crying in Olivia's arms. Her entire body started trembling violently. Mia rushed forward and grabbed her shoulder.
"It's okay," she whispered shakily. "It's okay." But Olivia knew it wasn't. 2 police officers entered moments later. Behind them came a woman in a dark wool coat with a federal badge clipped to her belt. The woman's expression softened slightly when she saw Olivia holding the baby. "Mrs. Bennett?" asked the woman gently. Olivia nodded weakly. The woman sat carefully beside the hospital bed. My name is Naomi Reyes with the FBI." The room spun. FBI? That word didn't belong in her life. It belonged in TV shows, crime documentaries, courtrooms, not maternity wards. "There's a mistake," Olivia whispered automatically. Agent Reyes exchanged a glance with one of the officers. "I'm afraid there hasn't." Outside the hallway, security guards still shouted instructions, while nurses gathered nervously near the station desk. Olivia clutched Ava tighter against her chest. What did Ethan do? The agent paused, then asked a question that made Olivia's stomach turn to ice. "How long have you known your husband as Ethan Bennett?" Olivia blinked. "What? How long? We've been married 7 years." Reyes nodded slowly. "Mrs. Bennett, the man you married is not Ethan Bennett." Everything inside Olivia went numb. "No," she whispered instantly. "No, that's impossible." The agent opened a thin folder and slid a photograph across the blanket. Olivia looked down. Same face, same eyes, but younger, harder somehow, standing beside another woman and 2 little boys. Underneath the photo was a different name, Marcus. Olivia stopped breathing. "No." "We've been investigating him for nearly 5 years," Reyes continued quietly. "Multiple identities, financial fraud, identity theft, investment scams across several states." Mia covered her mouth in horror. Olivia stared at the picture again. Same smile, same posture, but suddenly the man she loved looked like a stranger wearing Ethan's skin. He targeted financially stable women, especially women with property assets or inheritance potential. Every memory inside Olivia twisted violently. Ethan handling taxes, Ethan controlling accounts, Ethan pushing electronic signatures, Ethan isolating financial decisions during pregnancy. The marriage she thought she lived suddenly collapsed like rotten wood. "But why accuse me about the baby?" Olivia swallowed painfully. Nobody answered immediately, and in that silence, Olivia understood something terrifying. It was never about the baby. Agent Reyes leaned forward carefully. "We believe he intended to emotionally destabilize you after childbirth before filing separation claims involving the house and remaining assets." Olivia felt physically sick. "He planned this?" "We believe so." Then Dr. Klein stepped forward, holding the medical file tighter. "There's another reason we became suspicious." Olivia looked blankly. "The blood work." "What blood work?" The doctor hesitated. "Your husband claimed no prior surgeries during family medical screening, but his markers suggested otherwise." Olivia frowned weakly. "What does that mean?" Dr. Klein looked uncomfortable. "There were indications of a vasectomy performed years ago." The room blurred. "What?" Agent Reyes nodded softly. "That's what triggered the identity discrepancy." Olivia looked down at Ava instinctively. "But she's his," she whispered. "I never cheated." "We know," Reyes said gently. Paternity was already confirmed. Relief hit Olivia so hard it almost hurt. For 5 days she'd carried humiliation like poison inside her chest. And now, suddenly, she could breathe again. But only for a moment, because another realization replaced it immediately. "He knew she was his," Olivia whispered. "Yes." Something inside her broke quietly then. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a deep, irreversible crack in the center of trust itself.
because Marcus, Ethan, whatever his real name was, had looked directly at his own newborn daughter and weaponized her without hesitation. And that was somehow worse than every financial lie combined. By the time Olivia Bennett left Mercy General Hospital, half of Chicago already knew her story. Not the truth, just the version people like sharing online. FBI arrests husband in maternity ward. Woman discovers husband's secret identity after childbirth. New mom scammed by fake husband. Every local station replayed the footage non-stop. The parking garage, the arrest, the federal agents escorting Marcus Vale through the hospital entrance in handcuffs while reporters shouted questions behind barricades. Strangers stared at Olivia in grocery stores. Women whispered at pharmacy counters. Even people trying to be kind somehow made it worse. "Oh, honey, there had to be signs." That sentence followed her everywhere. There had to be signs. As if manipulation only worked on stupid people. As if predators walked around wearing warning labels. The first 6 weeks after the arrest nearly destroyed her. Physically, she was still healing from childbirth. Emotionally, she felt skinned alive. Sleep became impossible. Every creak in the house made her jump. Every unknown number sent her pulse racing. And the financial situation? Way worse than the FBI originally believed. Marcus hadn't just borrowed against the house. He had opened credit lines in Olivia's name, transferred retirement funds through fake shell accounts, taken out private loans using forged electronic documents. By the time Ava was 6 weeks old, debt collectors were already calling, sometimes while Olivia was breastfeeding, sometimes at 7 a.m., sometimes late enough at night to wake the baby. One man actually said, "Well, ma'am, your husband disappeared with over $200,000. Somebody has to pay it." Olivia hung up and cried so hard, Ava started crying too. That became the rhythm of her life. The baby crying, bills arriving, lawyers calling, reporters lurking outside, occasionally hoping for a statement. And underneath all of it sat humiliation, heavy, constant, exhausting. At Roosevelt Elementary, where Olivia taught 4th grade, coworkers suddenly spoke to her with that overly careful voice people use around tragedy. One teacher hugged her in the hallway and whispered, "I just can't imagine being fooled like that." Olivia smiled politely while something inside her shrank. Because people always say manipulation is obvious after they know the ending. Before the ending, it looks exactly like love. At home, things weren't much better. Her mother called every few hours, checking whether doors were locked. Mia stayed over constantly because she didn't trust Olivia alone yet. And then came the voicemails. Marcus's mother, Elaine Whale, the woman Olivia had known as Susan Bennett for almost 7 years. "You embarrassed our family publicly. You should have stood beside your husband. You ruined his life." Olivia listened to one voicemail while warming a bottle at 2 a.m., then suddenly laughed. Not because it was funny, because the insanity finally became too big for tears. The man stole her identity, her savings, her marriage, nearly her home, and somehow she was still being blamed. America really did love punishing women for trusting the wrong man, especially pregnant women, especially emotional women, especially women who survived publicly. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, about 2 months after the arrest, Agent Naomi Reyes knocked on Olivia's front door, carrying takeout coffee and a thick folder. "You look exhausted," Naomi said honestly as Olivia opened the door. Olivia gave a tired little smile. That obvious? A little. Naomi stepped inside while Ava slept upstairs in the nursery. The house felt strangely empty now. Marcus had designed almost every room himself. The gray walls, the expensive kitchen stools, the framed black and white city photographs. For weeks, Olivia considered selling everything, but something about leaving felt like surrender. Naomi sat at the kitchen table and opened the folder slowly. There's something you need to see. Inside were photographs. Women. Different ages, different cities, different lives. One holding twins outside a school in Arizona. Another smiling beside a boat in Seattle. One standing in front of a bakery in Minneapolis. Olivia's stomach tightened. What is this? Victims. The word landed hard. Naomi slid another photograph forward. This one showed Marcus beside a brunette woman holding the hand of a little boy. He had another family? Olivia whispered. At least one. Olivia stared at the image. The woman looked kind, open, trusting, just like she once looked. How many women? We're still counting. Olivia leaned back slowly in the chair. Suddenly, the kitchen felt colder. Naomi's voice softened. He built emotional relationships around financial manipulation, fake businesses, fake investments, fake emergencies. Once trust was established, he gained access to assets. Olivia looked toward the staircase where Ava slept upstairs. He's going to keep doing this forever, isn't he? Naomi didn't answer immediately. Then she said quietly, "Not if we stop him completely." Olivia frowned. "What do you mean?" "We have enough evidence for fraud charges," Naomi explained, "but we think Marcus is connected to something bigger." Bigger how? Offshore laundering? Identity pipelines? Possibly organized financial networks. Olivia almost laughed from disbelief. "You think I know anything about that world?" Naomi leaned forward slightly. "No, but you know him." Olivia's expression darkened. "I clearly didn't." "Yes, you did," Naomi corrected gently. "You know his habits, his routines. You know when he got nervous. You know what made him angry." That part was true. Over the next several weeks, Olivia's life transformed in ways she never expected. At first, she simply answered questions, small things. Marcus changed phones constantly, hated paper mail, never let mechanics keep his car overnight, always panicked around tax season. Then more memories surfaced. Business trips that made no sense, mysterious cash deposits, conversations abruptly ending when she entered rooms. Piece by piece, investigators built timelines around her memories. And strangely enough, helping them helped her too. Because for the first time since the delivery room, Olivia stopped feeling powerless. One night, while searching the basement for old insurance paperwork, she found a sealed plastic container hidden beneath Christmas decorations. Inside were 4 passports. Different names, same face. Her hands started shaking so badly she dropped one onto the concrete floor. That discovery changed everything. Within days, federal investigators uncovered offshore transfers linked to Marcus's aliases. Shell companies surfaced across 3 states. Stolen retirement accounts, forged business investments, fake consulting firms. The deeper investigators dug, the uglier it got. And then, one evening, Naomi arrived at Olivia's house with a look she'd never worn before. Anger. "We found another woman," she said quietly. Olivia stopped folding baby clothes. "What do you mean?" "She says Marcus contacted her 3 months before Ava was born."
Olivia felt sick instantly. 3 months before the birth, while she was pregnant, while he rubbed lotion on her stomach at night, while he painted the nursery, while he kissed her forehead and called her mama. He was already preparing another life, another victim, another escape route. Something hardened inside Olivia then. For months she had drowned in embarrassment, questioning herself, blaming herself, replaying every missed sign. But suddenly she saw the truth clearly. Marcus survived because women blamed themselves faster than society blamed men like him. That realization changed her. She stopped apologizing during FBI interviews, stopped shrinking herself during conversations, stopped speaking like someone asking permission to exist. Instead, she learned financial terminology, fraud patterns, legal systems. Some nights she sat at the kitchen table, bouncing Ava gently on her knee while reviewing evidence with federal investigators. And every new discovery strengthened her anger, especially the recordings, because eventually investigators recovered deleted cloud backups tied to Marcus's encrypted accounts. Olivia felt sick instantly. 3 months before the birth, while she was pregnant, while he rubbed lotion on her stomach at night, while he painted the nursery, while he kissed her forehead and called her mama. He was already preparing another life, another victim, another escape route. Something hardened inside Olivia then. For months she had drowned in embarrassment, questioning herself, blaming herself, replaying every missed sign. But suddenly she saw the truth clearly. Marcus survived because women blamed themselves faster than society blamed men like him. That realization changed her. She stopped apologizing during FBI interviews, stopped shrinking herself during conversations, stopped speaking like someone asking permission to exist. Instead, she learned financial terminology, fraud patterns, legal systems. Some nights she sat at the kitchen table, bouncing Ava gently on her knee while reviewing evidence with federal investigators. And every new discovery strengthened her anger, especially the recordings, because eventually investigators recovered deleted cloud backups tied to Marcus's encrypted accounts. One audio clip lasted less than a minute, but it changed everything. Olivia sat beside Naomi inside a federal office, wearing headphones while rain tapped softly against the windows. Marcus's voice filled her ears. Calm, relaxed, cruel. "If she spirals after the birth," he said casually, "the house gets easier to take." Another man laughed quietly. Then Marcus added, "She trusts me completely anyway." Olivia closed her eyes. Naomi paused the recording. Neither woman spoke for several seconds. Finally, Olivia removed the headphones carefully. The room felt too small suddenly, too hot. "He planned every second of it," she whispered. Naomi nodded once. Olivia looked through the office window toward the dark Chicago skyline. Cars moved through rain below like tiny rivers of light. "He thought I'd stay broken," she said softly. Naomi's expression hardened slightly. "What he didn't understand," Olivia continued, "women survive men like him every single day." And for the first time since the hospital room, Olivia no longer felt like the victim in her own story. She felt dangerous to him now. Not because she hated him,
because she finally saw him clearly. Predators survive in confusion. Truth starves them. Months passed. Winter melted slowly into spring. Ava learned how to laugh. That changed everything too. There is something almost holy about hearing your baby laugh after the worst season of your life. It reminds you the world didn't end, it only changed shape. Olivia started sleeping again. Not perfectly, but enough. She began taking Ava on long stroller walks near Lake Michigan. Cold wind, gray skies, tiny kink mittens. Sometimes strangers smiled at the baby, and Olivia realized she could smile back now without forcing it. One afternoon, during a federal prep meeting, Naomi slid a folder across the table. Inside were transcripts from Marcus's financial accounts. Then she pointed at one date. Olivia froze. The transaction happened while she was in labor. While she screamed through contractions and begged for ice chips under fluorescent lights, Marcus had been moving money offshore from the hospital parking garage. Olivia stared at the timestamp for a very long time. Then suddenly she laughed. Naomi looked confused. What? Olivia shook her head slowly. He really thought he was the smartest guy in every room. He did. But you know what's crazy? What? Olivia leaned back in the chair. He still underestimated the woman who gave birth to his child. Naomi smiled faintly for the first time that day. And somewhere deep inside herself, Olivia finally understood something powerful. Marcus had stolen money, time, trust, peace, but he failed to steal the one thing he needed most, her identity.
By the time Marcus Vail entered federal court that October, the story had spread far beyond Chicago. National news picked it up first, then podcasts, true crime channels, daytime television, internet detectives. Everybody suddenly had an opinion about the woman whose husband got arrested outside a maternity ward. Some people called Olivia brave. Others called her naive. A few idiots online even claimed the whole thing was staged for attention. That part stopped hurting after a while. Because once you survive real betrayal, strangers on the internet start feeling very small. The federal courthouse downtown buzzed with reporters from sunrise. Camera flashes lit up the marble hallway every few seconds, while attorneys hurried past carrying stacks of files and cold coffee cups. Olivia stood near courtroom 7B, holding Ava's tiny pink sock in her coat pocket like a lucky charm. Her daughter stayed home with Mia that morning. Olivia kissed her forehead 3 times before leaving the house, just in case courage ran out before court started. "You okay?" Agent Naomi Reyes asked quietly beside her. Olivia looked toward the courtroom doors. "No," she admitted honestly. Then she walked inside anyway. Marcus sat beside his attorney, wearing an expensive navy suit that somehow made him look even colder. His hair was shorter now, face leaner. But his eyes? Still exactly the same. Controlled, watchful, empty. For one dangerous second, Olivia remembered the first time they met. A rooftop charity event downtown, summer lights hanging above the city skyline, Marcus carrying her heels in his hands after she complained her feet hurt. Back then, she thought kindness looked like confidence. Now she understood something terrifying. Manipulators study kindness better than good people do, because they need to imitate it. Marcus glanced at her briefly as she entered. No guilt, no shame, just calculation, like he was still trying to figure out how useful she might become. That look cured the last piece of heartbreak she had left. The prosecution opened aggressively. Fraud, identity theft, forgery, money laundering, interstate financial crimes. One witness after another dismantled the fake life Marcus built. A forensic accountant explained the shell corporations. A cybercrime analyst detailed forged signatures and offshore transfers. Then came the women. Arizona, Seattle, Detroit, Nashville. Different stories, same pattern. Charm, trust, dependence, financial control, disappearance. One woman cried while describing how Marcus drained her late husband's insurance settlement. Another admitted she almost lost custody of her son after her credit collapsed under fraudulent debt. Olivia watched the jury carefully during every testimony. By the third day, several jurors no longer looked curious. They looked disgusted. But Marcus's defense team still tried one final strategy: destroy Olivia publicly. His attorney approached her during cross-examination with polished sympathy and poison hidden underneath it. "Mrs. Bennet," he began smoothly, "you were under significant emotional stress during these events, correct?" "Yes." "You had just given birth." "Yes." "You were medicated at times." "Yes." The attorney nodded carefully, like he was building compassion. "And your husband requested a paternity test because he genuinely believed the child might not be his." The courtroom became silent. Every eye fell on Olivia. Marcus watched quietly from the defense table, waiting. Even now he wanted shame to silence her, because shame was always his favorite weapon. The attorney continued softly. "So it's possible your emotional interpretation of events—" "No," Olivia interrupted calmly. The attorney blinked. "No?" Olivia straightened slowly in the witness chair. "That wasn't confusion. That was strategy." The attorney forced a smile. "Mrs. Bennet, are you suggesting my client intentionally fabricated concerns about paternity?" Olivia turned toward the jury before answering. "I'm saying he looked at his own newborn daughter less than 5 minutes after birth and accused me of cheating because he thought humiliation would make me easier to control." Silence. Real silence. Even the defense attorney hesitated, and for the first time all trial, Marcus looked irritated, just briefly, but Olivia saw it. Control slipping. The prosecution's final evidence arrived 2 days later. Recovered audio files. The courtroom speakers crackled softly. Then Marcus's voice filled the room. "If she breaks emotionally after the baby comes, getting the house becomes easy," he said casually. A second man laughed. Then Marcus added the sentence that poisoned whatever sympathy remained in the courtroom. "Women like her always trust too much." The recording ended. Nobody moved. One juror slowly removed his glasses and stared directly at Marcus, like he finally understood what kind of man sat before him. A woman in the gallery whispered, "Oh my God." Olivia didn't look at Marcus immediately. Instead, she looked down at her own hands, the same hands that once shook while signing hospital forms beside him. Now they were steady. That mattered more than revenge ever could. The verdict came 3 days later. Guilty on all major counts: fraud, identity theft, financial exploitation, money laundering. Marcus barely reacted while the charges were read aloud, but Olivia noticed tiny movements in his jaw each time another guilty count landed, like cracks forming beneath concrete. Then came sentencing, 15 years federal prison. The courtroom erupted quietly with whispers. 15 years. Ava would be almost grown before Marcus ever walked free again.
And somewhere behind those dead, empty eyes, Marcus finally understood something. The woman he tried to destroy survived him. That was the one outcome he never planned for. 1 year later, Olivia stood inside Roosevelt Elementary's gymnasium, beneath strings of orange fall lights, while children ran laughing between folding tables covered in cupcakes and paper pumpkins. Outside, October rain tapped softly against the windows. Inside, life buzzed with ordinary happiness. Ava sat on Olivia's hip, wearing a tiny knitted sweater Mia made by hand. Her dark curls bounced every time she laughed. And God, that laugh healed places inside Olivia nobody could even see. Recovery didn't happen dramatically. No movie soundtrack, no magical breakthrough. It happened quietly, paying bills on time, sleeping through the night again, laughing unexpectedly, realizing an entire afternoon passed without thinking about Marcus. The house was hers now. Federal recovery teams managed to reclaim much of the stolen money. The fraudulent debts disappeared slowly. Her credit improved. But the most important thing Olivia regained wasn't financial, it was herself. For months after the arrest, she questioned every instinct she'd ever trusted. Therapy helped. Motherhood helped more. Because babies don't care about humiliation. They need bottles, warmth, clean pajamas, bedtime songs. They need someone who stays. Olivia became that person every single day. And somewhere during that process, she stopped defining herself by what happened to her. Near the refreshment table, Principal Donovan smiled warmly. "You thinking about coming back full-time after Christmas?" he asked. "That's the plan." "Well," he laughed softly, "your students ask about you constantly." Olivia smiled. Kids know who makes them feel safe. That sentence stayed with her, because for most of her marriage, she confused calm appearances with safety. Marcus understood that. Men like him always do. They imitate stability while quietly creating dependence underneath it. Real safety looked different. Real safety felt honest, predictable, gentle. Later that evening, a young woman approached Olivia nervously near the bleachers. "Mrs. Bennett?" Olivia turned politely. The woman looked maybe 30. Wedding ring, smudged mascara, eyes swollen from recent crying. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I recognized you from the news." Olivia felt old embarrassment flicker briefly. Then the woman lowered her voice. "My husband controls all our money," she whispered, "and lately I feel like I'm going crazy." There it was again, that same look Olivia once saw in those FBI photographs. Intelligent women drowning in self-doubt because somebody else benefited from their confusion. "What's your name?" Olivia asked gently. "Rachel." Olivia pulled out the chair beside her. "Sit down, Rachel." And beneath cheap gym decorations and distant children laughing, Olivia listened. Really listened. No judgment, no superiority, just understanding. By then, she had started volunteering twice a month at a women's resource center downtown. At first, she spoke about fraud awareness and financial literacy. Eventually, the work became something deeper, helping women recognize manipulation before it destroyed their sense of self completely. Because the truth was this: real revenge isn't dramatic. It isn't screaming, it isn't destruction, it isn't watching somebody suffer. Real revenge is rebuilding your life so beautifully that the person who tried to ruin it becomes irrelevant.
A few weeks before Christmas, Olivia received a letter from federal prison. She recognized the handwriting instantly. Marcus. Her stomach tightened before she even opened it. The letter was 2 pages long, no real apology, mostly excuses disguised as reflection, the language of a man still trying to control how people remembered him. Near the end came the real reason he wrote. "I'd like to meet my daughter someday." Olivia stared at the sentence for a long time. Outside her kitchen window, snow drifted slowly across the neighborhood. Ava sat in her high chair nearby, smashing banana pieces against the tray, while cartoon music played softly. For one dangerous moment, guilt touched Olivia's chest. Not romantic guilt, maternal guilt. The fear that one day Ava might resent her for keeping distance between them. Then Olivia remembered the hospital room, the accusation, the manipulation, the recording. If she breaks emotionally after the baby comes. Olivia folded the letter carefully. Some people confuse forgiveness with access. They are not the same. The next morning, she mailed a short response through prison counseling services. Ava is loved, protected, and safe. That is enough. Afterwards, she felt strangely peaceful, not angry, not triumphant, certain. By spring, life settled into something beautifully ordinary. Morning daycare drop-offs, coffee reheated 3 times before finishing it, laundry piles, teacher meetings. Mia spoiled Ava constantly. Naomi Reyes occasionally stopped by for dinner. Sometimes they talked about the case. Mostly they talked about life. One snowy evening, Naomi asked quietly over coffee, "You know most people never fully trust again after something like that?" Olivia thought about it carefully, then looked toward Ava asleep on the couch beneath a tiny blanket. "I don't think trust is the problem," she said softly. Naomi raised an eyebrow. Olivia smiled faintly. "I think we just have to learn who deserves it." That Christmas Eve, after Ava finally fell asleep, Olivia stood alone beside the glowing tree in the quiet living room of the house she almost lost. Colored lights reflected softly against the windows. No fear hid beneath the silence anymore. No manipulation waited behind closed doors. Just peace. She thought about the woman she used to be, broken in a hospital bed, bleeding, exhausted, clutching her newborn daughter while the man beside her tried to destroy her emotionally before she could even stand. That woman believed her life was ending. She had no idea it was actually beginning. And somewhere far away behind concrete walls and locked gates, Marcus Whale would spend years living with the one thing men like him fear most: irrelevance. Because the woman he tried to humiliate publicly had done something far more powerful than revenge. She built a beautiful life after him.